Good morning, everyone. Look at this wonderful crowd. We've got a lovely audience here to enjoy our wonderful entertainment of cowboy poetry and some Western music later in the morning. Today kicks off our second day show here on Saturday the 17th for our 7th annual Lost in Lava Cowboy Gathering. If you take a notice over here, we got some of our major sponsors that we so proudly have to help us with this event, as well as the volunteers and the committee of the Lost in Lava Gathering. Payson Reese, the president, thank you, Payson, for all that you do for the community and for this event. My hat's off to you, sir. And Claudia, our secretary, Rusty, our treasurer, and Ann, our vice president. Thank you all. My name's Tony Argento. I'm your hostess with the mostest, and I will be running till 5 o'clock today on hosting your shows. I will be up here at 10 o'clock, and I have some special guests. We have Papa Mac, we have Lynn Kapelke, and where's that young man right over here? Yeah. Now, you fellows, if you want, what's your name again, young man? I almost forgot. Thatch Elmer, right? Yeah. And you're from, don't tell me, let me see. I know this is a test. Harrisburg, Utah, right? Harrisville. I said that yesterday, too, and I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to make sure I do this right. You fellows can sit down here, you can sit up here, either choice. Let me give a couple of our major sponsors here right off the bat. Big one here is KMVT from Magic Valley. They're our local Twin Falls television station that brings us all our local news, weather and sports, and our Lost in Lava Cowboy Gathering event. And Four Brothers Dairy, the Fitzgerald family, proudly sponsors us as well right here in Shoshone. One of the largest dairies in Lincoln County, located just north here of Shoshone. And folks, I said this yesterday and I'll say this again, this is a very impressive number. More than 12,000 cows milked 4 times a day. That's a lot of ice cream. All right, now don't forget we've got the tables over here that have all the treasures on there. The lucky ticket wins the prize. And I'm probably going to cut off about 5 minutes early so we can have the Panhandle Cowboys up here as well. Chris Dixon, our sound man with S&S Audio. Let's hear it for him. And let's hear it for this wonderful stage. Look how set up this is, so done well. Got the tack here and all these good things. You know, I've got lots of poems, but if I don't have it in front of me, I hate that. You like Bruce Cascadden, right? An old nice classic? This is called Tanglefoot Johnny's Bear. Once Tanglefoot Johnny had quite an affair. He'd done figured himself a rope and a bear. One day when Johnny was riding for stock, he noticed a bear that was taking a walk. The bear, he's filling his lungs with air, you see, eating grubs from the bark of a downed holler tree. So Johnny lifted his hostile lope and he built him a loop on the end of his rope. He dabbed his rope on him and he mighty soon found that a bear is built heavy and close to the ground. Let me get another drink. Wasn't no use for his hoss to set back. That bear come a-charging. He had lots of slack. And then right after that, bear had lots of slack. Well, you know what? I'm going to throw a next one in here. All right. You still like Bruce Cascadden? Maybe I'll do Tanglefoot here in a little bit. It's called A Cowboy's Funeral. There once was a cowboy funeral that I many times recall. A bad hoss had kicked and killed a feller on a bee fork late one fall. It was a bleak day in November. The air was cold and raw, and the clouds looked gray and ugly. And the wind blew down the draw. There was no automobiles then, and we was far from trains. In that rugged piece of country where the canyons break the plains. We had to make a burying to finish the affair. Well, best time was the present. Closest place was there. We hadn't any coffin. There was no bell to toll. Well, we went up on a hillside and we dug a narrow hole. We wrapped him up inside his bed and laid him in the shale with a saddle underneath his head to ride that last long trail. There was no book where we could look or read the word from its pages. No one was there to say a prayer, sing the Rock of Ages. I recollect nobody spoke. We didn't care to talk. We filled a hole and took a smoke and raised a pile of rock. When the thing was over, it was sort of like a dream. And we'd help the cook and wrangler while they'd harnessed up the team. We got the herd a moving and departed on our way. We left that cowboy there to sleep till Resurrection Day. Mr. Bruce Guskadden, thank you. I'm bothered with that Tanglefoot Johnny joke. All right, you know what? I'm going to do Fur Coat. This is by Mike Snyder. He's from Canada. This fella's from Manitoba, Canada. That's why he's giving a good clap for Mike. Since all her friends have got one, my wife wants one too. A fluffy, full-length fur coat. Just ain't nothing else is gonna do. Oh, she said it'd make her look real classy and how I'd be so proud of her. There was just some way I could find to get her that fur. Well, now, that got me to thinking. Just how am I gonna swing this kind of deal? Lord knows I can't afford it, and I know it's wrong to steal. But the problem finally resolved itself one Friday afternoon. In fact, it just jumped right out in front of me on Highway 22. Why, that big old German Shepherd, my old pickup truck he didn't see. Now, he's up in doggy heaven, but his hide belongs to me. Well, after 6 weeks in my workshop, I worked hard most every night. Though it was mostly trial and error, but then I finally got it right. So I fancy wrapped it in a big old box, and I hand-delivered the thing to her. Holy smokes, was she tickled to death when I surprised her with that fur. Now my darling's got her new fur coat that reaches down to her knees, but doggone it, she's been complaining lately. Her closet's full of fleas. She don't know dear old Fido's wrapped around her tight. By golly, you could say she's really putting on the dog when she goes out at night. Well, darling's been depressed these past few days since I backed up over the cat. But I think she'll feel much better when I give her this new fur hat. Thank you. Mr. Mike Snyder of Canada. Thank you very much. Mr. Thatch Elmer. Come on up here, young man. I'm looking forward to hearing your material.
Oh, good evening. Good morning, everybody. How you guys doing this morning? Good. This is a classic cowboy poem that I've been doing for quite a long time, and the first time I ever heard it was the first time I ever performed, and I knew that this would be something I had to do, but I had a really hard time memorizing it, and I'm going to share it with you guys today. It's called When They Finish Shipping Cattle in the Fall. Though you're not exactly blue, yet you don't feel like you do in the winter and the long hot summer days. For your feelings and the weather sort of seem to go together, and you're quiet in the dreamy autumn haze. When the last big steers are goaded down the chute and safely loaded, and the summer crew is seized to hit the ball, when a fella starts a draggin' to the home ranch with the wagon, when they finish shipping cattle in the fall. Only 2 men left standing on this job for winter branding, and your partner, he's a-loafing by your side. He's got a brand new saddle creaking, but you never hear him speaking, and you feel it's gonna be a quiet ride. But you savvy one another, heck, you know him like a brother. He's friendly, but he's quiet, that is all. He's just thinking while he's dragging to the home ranch with the wagon, when they finish shipping cattle in the fall. And the saddle hosses stringing had an easy walk a-swinging, and behind the old chuck wagon moving slow. They're weary, gaunt and jaded, for the mud and brush they waited, and they settled down to business long ago. No, not a hoss is feeling sporty, and a hoss ain't acting snorty. In the spring them brutes was full of buck and ball. But they're gentle when they're dragging to the home ranch with the wagon, when they finish shipping cattle in the fall. And the cook, he leads the retreat, perched high up on his wagon seat, with his hat pulled way down forward on his head. He used to make that old team hustle. Now he barely moves a muscle, and a feller might imagine he was dead. 'Cept that old cob pipe a-smokin', and he lets his team go pokin', hitting all the humps and hollers in the road. Naw, Cookie ain't been drinkin', he's just sittin' up there thinkin' 'bout the people and the places that he knowed. And you watch the dust a-trailin', and 2 little clouds a-sailin', and a big mirage like lakes in timber tall. Heck, it's lonesome when you're draggin' to the home ranch with the wagon, when they finish shipping cattle in the fall. When you make camp that night, and the fire's burning bright, yet nobody seems to have a lot to say. In the spring you sung and hollered, well, now you get your supper swallered, and you crawl into your blankets right away. Then you watch the stars a-shinin' up there in the soft blue lining, and you sniff the frosty night air clear and cool. You can hear the night hawk shifting, and your memory goes a-drifting to that little village where you went to school, with its narrow gravel streets, and the kids you used to meet at the commons where you used to play baseball. Now you're far away and dragging to the home ranch with the wagon, when they finish shipping cattle in the fall. And your schoolboy sweetheart too, with her eyes of honest blue, best performer in the old home talent show. Boy, you were nothing but a kid, but you liked her, sure you did. Lord, that was over 30 years ago. Then your memory starts to roam from old Mexico to Nome, from the Rio Grande to the Powder River. Of the things you seen and done, some of them was lots of fun, and some of them, boy, they make you shiver. 'Bout that boy by name of Reed that was killed in the stampede. 'Twas way up north. You helped him dig his grave. And your old friend, Jim the boss, got tangled with that hoss, and fellers couldn't reach him in time to save. You was there when Ed got his'n. The boy that killed him still in prison, and lucky Georgie's rich and living high. Poor old Tommy come off worst, broke his leg and died of thirst. Lord, that must have been an awful way to die. Then them winters at the ranches, and them old-time country dances, everybody there was sociable and gay. You used to lead 'em down the middle, just a prancin' to the fiddle. Never thought of going home till break of day. No, there ain't no chance for sleepin' when the memories come a-creepin'. And sometimes you think you hear the voices call when a fella starts a-draggin' to the home ranch with the wagon when they finish shipping cattle in the fall. Thank you. Well, I'm gonna kind of stay on topic here. I might do another Bruce Cascadin poem. This one is a funny one. I'm gonna lighten the mood a little bit. This is about a show cow. The old longhorn looked at the prize-winning steer. He grumbled, "What sort of thing is this here? He ain't got no legs and his body is big. I sort of suspicion that he's crossed with a pig. Now me, I can run, I can go, or I can kick. But that fat feller's too clumsy to do all them tricks. You see, they're breeding such critters and calling them steers, for the horns he's got ain't as long as these ears. I can't figure out what he'd done in my day. They wouldn't have stuffed me with grain with hay, nor have polished my horns and fixed up my hooves, and slept me on bed and under these roofs. Who have curried his hide and fuzzed up his tail? Not none of the riders who've drove the long trail. They have found mighty quick just how far her could jump when they jerked a few dallies of rope off her rump. And to me it occurs he would not look so slick with his tail full of burrs and his hide full of ticks. And I do just wonder just what that fat feller would think if he lived on short grass and went miles for a drink, and wintered outdoors in the sleet and snow. He wouldn't look much like he does the show. No, I would not be like him. No, not if I could. Heck, I can't figure out why they think he's so good. His short legs and his white baby face, I could finish him off in a fight or a race. They have his whole family history in writing, and still he ain't fit for nothing exceptin' to kill. And all of them judges that think they're so wise, heck, they looked at that critter and gave him first prize. Thank you. All right, well, I'm going to do another one for you guys. This is an S. Omar Barker, and he's also a very good classic cowboy poet in the early 1900s. And this one is just one of my favorites. They asked me, "What's a rodeo?" and I told them that I knowed. But to put it into language was a job that had me throwed. It's hooves and horns and hoss sweat and the smell of western dust. It's randy hands to wrestle and it's bucking broncs to bust. It's ropes to catch a calf with and piggin' strings to tie 'em down. It's the daring do a horseback men. The rangeland comes to town. It's brammer bulls to straddle and it's bones to bust and bruise. It's the Olympics of the saddle, if you win or if you lose. It's men that pay an entrance fee for just one chance to win, and when all they win's a busted leg, they take it with a grin. It's roping horses smart enough that you'd think they've been to school, and so they have. It's years they've been in training, as a rule, with some old cowboy teacher using patience by the quart to learn 'em how to catch a calf and hold 'em like they ort. Of course, there's rules to go by, just like any other game. But livestock sure can't read 'em, so it don't come out the same. For though a ball game can be throwed, and sometimes is I hear, you can't buy off a bucking bronc nor fix a bramer steer. The Wild West ain't as roomy as it was some years ago, but still it sprouts adventure, so we've got the rodeo. With men that's known as cowboys, keeping their horseback honor bright, by rope and spur and saddle, on four-footed dynamite. Thank you. Oh, I would like to thank Tony for having me up here, and I'm going to turn it back over to him and everybody else.
Nice job. Let's hear it for Mr. Thatch Elmer. Good job. You bet, buddy. Our next very special guest that we have, you still enjoying the show? Yeah, I like it. We've got a very special guest here. 1,700 miles away, 28-hour drive, Manitoba, Canada, Jeff Mackay, a.k.a. Papa Mac. You're going to like his material, you're going to like his demeanor, and he's just an all-around nice fellow, like everybody here. Come on up here, young man. I'm proud to have you share the stage with me.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Well, I didn't come 1,700 miles today, but... And it actually worked out easier for me this time because my truck didn't break down, so I didn't have to change vehicles in Fargo, North Dakota like last year. So the first one I'm going to do for you this morning is the one I tried to do last night. I'm going to try to get through it. I hate it when it's like Tony, I hate it when a poem defeats me, so hopefully I'll get through it today. It's something I wrote a little while ago, and I wrote it because they had a big debate about wild horses in Canada. And now they're even, just in the news recently, the federal government was planning to kill 45,000 wild horses here in the United States. And because of public outcry, they have reversed that decision. So I don't know if they're going to look for homes for them or they're just going to allow them to stay the way they are. So it's called Last of the Breed. They're the last. There is none left. The rest are all gone, wild horses of the West. Not to be tamed nor even caught. You try as you may, but it's all for naught. Them horses are savvy. They've been tested before. They ain't never felt a rope or seen a barn door. Born in the wild, it's where they should stay. It's the only life they've known. It's always been that way. And so they run free across the great plain. It's has God as planned it and how they should remain. Thank you. So I made it through. Well, every year I do these things, and if my wife's not able to travel with me, it makes me a little bit sadder, but we're still kind of in that, some people say we're still in that honeymoon part of our marriage because we've been married less than 20 years kind of idea. I'm hoping once we've been married 20 years, we're still in the honeymoon part of our marriage. I talk to her, I don't know how many times every day while I'm away. And well, last night she decided to rub it in my nose that I was away because I got a text from her, text message with a picture, and on the picture are 2 tickets. And I figured, we get tickets all the time given to the company, so I'm not worried about it. Well, the PBR is in Winnipeg tonight. And so not only did one of her advertisers give her tickets, they gave her private suite tickets. And so she's going, look at the fun you're missing, and that prompted love story. First time he saw her, he knew it was right. You could say it was love at first sight. He could spend hours. No, sorry. Just looking at her, he thought he was in heaven, and he just knew she was a perfect size 7. Well, there she was Monday, looking just as sweet. He was pretty nervous, but knew they'd soon meet. Her pale skin gleamed in the midday sun. He had to muster up his courage because he was sure she was the one. Just being in her presence turned him into a bundle of nerves. He stood there breathless, in awe of her curves. His hands trembled as he experienced her first touch. It was everything he had dreamt about, perhaps too much. He proceeded slowly, almost afraid to take chances, but soon she surrendered to his subtle advances. Well, he had to have her right then and there, as he knew this wasn't going to be a one-night affair. Well, it's been 22 years since their first meeting. That's a love story that isn't fleeting. But it should be no surprise that they're still together. After all, he knew she was his forever. Well, it's a love story unlike most, and when questioned about it, this is his repost. Well, I fell in love when I first met her, and I don't care if you concur. Well, he loves her, there's no doubt about that. After all, what cowboy forgets his first hat? And I had to do that poem today because later on this afternoon, it's all about me at 4 o'clock, and this is my hat I'm just kind of getting broken in. It's 25 years old, and I don't want to have to describe all the stuff that's either been on it or in it, so I'm not going to. So I'm going to finish up with one more, if I have time for one more. Okay, I'll finish up with one more. I've kind of done what people say, I've kind of done almost everything there is to do on a ranch. I haven't really been a blacksmith. I've only assisted in shoeing. I haven't done that so much, but almost every other job. I was a cook on a wagon. I've been a day worker hand. I've been an owner, operator. You know, so if I've got OB chains or whatever. And in Canada, we have this crazy obsession. For some reason, we like when our beef cattle give birth and calf, when it's the coldest it can be. Because in February is calving time back home, and in February it could be minus 50 Fahrenheit. And I don't know why we do that, because I know beef cattle can have babies any time of the year. But we put our bulls out with the herd in the spring and summer. And so we calf in the winter. Part of it is because of our cycle, the way we sail. You know, right now I might buy spring calves and we'll sell them in the fall because it's just a quick flip. So anyhow, but when I was working as a day worker and stuff, you used to get, you're just signed on for a little while. So you get the jobs that sometimes nobody like. And so you get a lot of time to spend by yourself and you get a lot of time to work. And so this one's called just me and God. The cattle are in from summer grazing, and I'm riding pasture tonight. I'll be going out looking for strays, and I won't be back till first light. The sky is clear, but it's getting cold as my saddle creaks as we start our ride. We're leaving small puffs of breath behind as my horse lengthens her stride. We're out looking for cows that are lost and them not wanting to be found. We'll ride over hills and through valleys, but we have found no evidence on the ground. Was this night just a waste of time? I've been riding for hours. It's time for a rest. I dismount and let my horse graze. It's so peaceful out here, but I'm feeling kind of stressed. I may be the only rider out, but I know I'm not alone, for it's just me and God and me, and He knows what I've sown. I lived my life my own way, or that's how I felt. Cowboying sure isn't easy, but you have to play the hand you're dealt. I was thinking, my boss may have bought this land, but God is its rightful owner. Because only He could create such beauty. He'll just let us use it as a loaner. Well, an hour had passed, and I had to get back looking for strays. My horse, she's standing there waiting for me, and I stop, and I give her a little bit of praise. Well, the night is fading into new day as I hear a cow bawling for her calf. I didn't see anything earlier when I passed this way. It's God's work. That's clear as a photograph. Before long, I found them both, not worse for wear. Before long, I found them. Not worse for wear. I laid that calf over my saddle. Mama followed close behind, and soon they were back with the other cattle. And I was thinking, this night wasn't really about finding cows. It was to remind me that God is enough. As since I surrendered my life to Him, He's helped me take care of the tough stuff. Thank you guys very much. You have a great day. And thank you, Tony.
You're welcome. Let's hear another round for Papa Mac. Now don't forget, we got our vendors outside here. They'd love to see you. We've got food. We've got mountain men out there. We've got all kinds of goodies. Our next guest, special guest, is from Enumclaw, Washington. He's worked retail for better than 20 years, and just shy of 20, he was an actor. He's a cowboy poet, and he's also an artist with a very special talent. And on our covers of our brochures here, that is his talent that you see before you. We're very proud to have him with us this year. Come on up here. Lynn Kapelke.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it. It's good to be here, folks, and I want to thank you guys for coming out at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. We really appreciate it. Yes, spent almost 20 years as an actor. Towards the end of that period, through some of the performing I was doing, I met people that, had cows. And ended up doing some cowboying for a little while. And I was telling Claudia this story this morning. Found myself doing groundwork in the spring, in the heat, in the dust, and the stench. And I thought to myself, I found it. I found the one thing that's more fulfilling and pays less than acting. And I guess that time sort of left a mark. Here's a little poem about that period. It is happened so long ago I didn't even bother to change the names. It's called Ranch Roping. And my buddy Jeff and me, we's wrestling calves. And we're working for the Bar H bar. Now, it's a job can't be done by halves. Groundwork's hard. That's just the way things are. To this day, I swear, through no fault of ours, one of them critters got plumb clear, took off with all his power. He gained speed as his hooves picked up traction. But Rob and John, why, they sprung into action. They shook out their loops and set out afoot. No thought in their mind to fail to return this wandering galoot just as sure as the U.S. mail. Now, their approach was slow, purposeful. The beast might yet turn bold. You couldn't be too careful. He must have been pert near 3 weeks old. But oh, they stood tall, their lariats a-twirl, a symbol of America, never to fall, recognized throughout the world. Cowboy. One young rancher named Terry, not as impressed as the rest of us, his expression somewhat glary, set out purposefully through the dust. He deftly dodged the spinning loops and approached the cornered critter, and with a less than gentle scoop, returned that errant pup into the litter. For a moment, they still stood, frozen in space and time, robbed of their heroic cowboyhood. Mean practicality had stolen their moment sublime, but there was work to be done, critters to be doctored, branded, and kind. But amidst that springs other fun. That image remains etched firmly in my mind of a twin cowboy colossus, the very inspiration to Gene and Roy, with their cactwine bravely unfurled, for when a cowboy feels like a cowboy. Catch or no, he's king of the whole wide world. Really have a rope. Thank you, folks. I appreciate it. I'm going to do this one if I can remember it. It is, it's sort of a rodeo poem. It is, it's entitled The Hand from Hell. There's a ride for the ages. That outlaw sure could buck. Whoo, can't feel this way on wages. Eight parts cowboy, last to luck. Out of the chute he came, his spurs they rang, ringing a rodeo rhapsody. Now he gonna end this ride with sure enough bang, and that was plain for all to see. But at 5.2, it all comes undone, and he's swimming through the air. Ground's coming up fast to spoil his fun, the Bronx somewhere over there. So he reaches out in an attempt to ease the inevitable calamity, when coming up through the ground, another hand he sees, making him doubt his sanity. But this scaly red claw grabs onto his arm. With a grip like icy death, pulls him down through the clay as his heart pounds alarm. Red dirt replaces his breath. He awakes in a sweat. The strangled-off scream, and bolt upright he sits in his bed, fevered by the images of that awful dream. It's already faded, gone plumb clean from his head. Next day, he draws a pretty good ride, old 666 out of Ortega's string. Now, there's money to be made here if he did more than tried. Of course, hanging on for 8, that's always the thing. Well, he comes out clean. His spurs is singing, raking from chin to flank. Another 4 seconds. Buzzers are ringing, and he's putting a check in the bank. But at 5.2, it all comes undone. He's swimming through the air. Ground's coming up fast to spoil his fun. The Bronx somewhere over there. He led head first into that hard-packed ground, and his neck snapped like a stick crossed your knee. More than one stomach turned at that sickening sound. As Cowboy paid the last entry fee. Got real quiet, and a hush settled over the stands. All who saw thought he might have been okay if he'd only reached out with his hand. I'm kind of sorry to do that to you folks. I just like it. I enjoy doing that one. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. I'm going to do something real original. I'm going to do a poem about a horse. That's kind of like, cat videos on the internet, but this is a horse named Billy. Early every morning, with the rising of the sun, a wrangler gathers the horses, and the day's work has begun. From outside the cookhouse door, the herd's there, all plain to see, just down the hill a grazing. Well, all there except for three. Well, there's Mikey, old Pepperfoot, that big chestnut 50. They're all accounted for, and there's maybe near a dozen more, but three stand in absentia, led by a short-legged bay, hiding out amongst the cottonwoods, unwilling to start the day. Two, left to their own device, why, they'd never cause a fuss. They fell in with Billy. He's an independent-minded cuss. He got legs just like a wiener dog and a draft horse neck and chest, the wry and sly demeanor, and he's a sight smarter than the rest. Every day about first light, he bids goodbye to his friends, followed by Rudy and Norman, loyal minions to the end. And about the time a wrangler gets that herd to the top of that hill, why, three specks appear down in the valley below. That'd be Rudy and Norman and Bill. There was a hand on the spread by the name of Jack McQuarty, and he had a fondness for little Bill. You see, he wore the nickname Shorty. And truth be told, it suited me just fine to spend my day on the back of that running quarter. You see, Rudy, he was a favorite of mine. So down the hill the wrangler'd go and back up once again, two horses just a snickering while Billy wore an evil grin. There were some fine horses on that spread. It'll pack you here to home. Natasha Blaze, old Charlie Brown, hell, they might even write their own poem. But it's Billy that I'm remembering these days as often as is not, with his equine charisma to spare. That big little horse just won't never be forgot. Thank you for coming out, folks. We really appreciate it. Chris, thank you. Everybody, thanks for having me. Tony?
Thank you, Lynn. Let's hear another one for Mr. Lynn Kapelke. Fellows, I want to thank you for coming up here and sharing the stage with me. I feel very humbled. A fellow by the name of Gene Autry recorded more than 640 songs. He co-wrote over 250. The song I heard last night was his very first number one hit in 1933, My Silver-Haired Daddy. 1949, a number one hit that he did was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Up on rooftop, click, 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 down comes the chimney, comes St. Nick, Frosty the Snowman, Silver Bells, and at the urging of his wife, Peter Cottontail. In 1947, he did what was called the Cowboy Code, the Cowboy's Code of Ethics, what it took to do right, respect our flag, all those good things that a cowboy's known for. He was the first to do that of the Silver Screen Cowboys, and then the others emulated them in their own verse of what he started. This is called the Cowboy Code. The cowboy must never shoot first, hit a smaller man, or take unfair advantage. He must never go back on his word or trust confided in him. He must always tell the truth. He must be gentle with children, the elderly, and animals. He must not advocate or possess racially or religiously intolerant ideas. He must help people in distress. He must be a good worker. He must keep himself clean in thought, speech, action, and personal habits. He must respect women, parents, and his nation's laws. And number 10, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Tony's personal favorite. The cowboy is a patriot, Mr. Gene Orban Autry. Thank you. Quite a man. One other thing about that man that nobody will ever beat. He has 5 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Movies, radio, television, live theater, and broadcasting. An incredible feat for all those things. What we're supposed to do when we come up here during the day shows is we're supposed to give you a little bit of who we are. A lot of times you come up here, you roll some poems, you play some music, and that's all the people know about you. My father and my grandfathers were cowboys. My father was killed as a cowboy. Being a cowboy, he had a mountain lion encounter here about 4 years ago, 73 years old, on his Percheron mule named Moses, and had the mule for 14 years. He could shoot off it. Nothing bothered that critter. But something went off in the head of that animal, and he went ballistic and took my dad on his last rodeo ride. He got thrown, and he didn't survive. So I'm going to give you a poem that I wrote exactly a week before this happened. And on the day that this happened, my mother called me. I was doing an event called the Carson City Rendezvous in Carson City in Nevada, there by the state capitol. And my mom calls me. I just finished doing a set, and she says, "Tony, your father's been in a terrible accident on Moses." The only thing I can think of was, maybe he got hit by a car alongside the road, or I don't know. All these things are going in my head. And she says, "They just told me that it doesn't look good. Contact family members." So where their ranch is, closest place they get the helicopter was the rodeo grounds. They flew him from the rodeo grounds to the trauma center, and there he didn't make it. Missed it the next day. So this poem that I wrote took me 10 minutes. Marcy liked the poem. She says, "Tony, I like that poem. Get Mom and Pa on the phone, get each of them on a different set, and get the reactions and see what they say." What are they going to say? "Gee, Tony, that was terrible." So they said, "Tony, we really like that poem." And Dad says, "Son, I love that poem." And I said, "Dad, that poem's about you, sir." So this is called A Cowboy's Wishes. Now, when I get to the point of when I say mending fences, take in mind that I wrote this a week before this event happened. This was on June 10th that I wrote this, June 11th that I wrote this, and a week later was when we had that circumstance. And then the following week was Father's Day weekend. We had a full military, full fire department service in front of about 800 people there at the Veterans Building, and I was at the request, my mother and my wife, to do this poem. And the funeral director asked if she could put it on my father's itinerary, so we did. Here it is, A Cowboy's Wishes. May your saddle forever be comfy, and your breeches always stay clean. And the Mustang hoss that you ride on, ride like a dream. And the partners you rope with, depend without fail. Fond memories of past friends long gone from that rough, dusty trail. Under the stars in your bedroll, fresh air and the new morning's dew. Enamored thoughts of your sweetheart's smiling face, of those piercing eyes blue. And the American flag that you fought for, wave evermore. Soldiers remembered that ultimate sacrifice, war. And your fences always be mended and your wants simple and free. Knowing God keeps these eyes peeled, giving guidance wherever you be. When your roundup days are done and you're put in the ground 6 feet below, in a simple pine box, branded, as you directed as ranching friends that you know. When you're at rest on that final day of your last setting sun, inscribed above you will read, "A cowboy's work is never done." Right on, Cowboy Dad. You're the best. Thank you. All right, we still got a few more minutes. Let's see if we can get through this Tanglefoot Johnny poem here. I'm kind of upset with myself about that one. That's not fair. All right, we're going to try this again. Go for strike 2. How's that? Tanglefoot Johnny's Bear by Bruce Guskadden. Once Tanglefoot Johnny had quite an affair. He done figured himself a rope at a bear. The bear, he's filling his lungs with air, you see, eating grubs from the bark of a down-holler tree. So Johnny, he lifted his hoss through lope, and he built him a loop in the end of his rope. He dabbed his rope out of him, and he mighty soon found, whoa, that a bear is built heavy and close to the ground. And that's where I got last time. That bear, he come charging. He had lots of slack. The horse, he got clawed and was dancing around. The bear turned around and he jerked the hoss down. The old hoss, he got clawed and was dancing around. The bear turned around and he jerked the hoss down. Go on it. I'm not done. The old Bruin, he run off, dragging that saddle behind. He got caught in some brush and he couldn't unwind. So he chawed on the rope and he bit it in two. In about 20 seconds, the ruckus was through. So one day I asked Johnny, he says on the square, just what do you think about roping a bear? He says, well, I figured it ain't of much use. Why, they're easy to catch. My God, they're hell to turn loose. Mr. Bruce Guskadden, thank you. All right, we got time for a couple more. Coming up here are Panhandle Cowboys, and you're going to enjoy their performance. They hosted our show last night. How many were here last night for the show? Yes, nice job, boys. Thank you kindly. This one I'm going to give to you, I'm going to call Old Cowboys Rest Home. It was an old Cowboys rest home that was thought would never be, but they sure were there, with spurs and chaps and boots upon their feet. Old West, picture perfect, with Dutch ovens cooking up their best, with all the fixings of good grub that put hair upon their chest. Good victuals is important to keep them living extra long and to help them with their cowboy poetry and to sing their cowboy song. The aroma of campfire coffee, good old cowboy beans, with cowboy posters on the walls of Tom Mix, John Wayne, Roy and Gene. Their scabbard rifles and holstered 6 guns, there for times of need. And cowboy hats laid upon their crowns, respectful as should be. Their branding irons in the fire, waiting to mark the brands. Camp cooks in their Studebaker chucks, cooking for all the hands. Patriotic is the cowboy. Of course, we all reckon that's true. Yeah, like Western stars, Gene and Audie Murphy, just to name a few. And like a Charlie Russell painting, old cowboys, they'll never die. And looking back to cowboys past, their pride and spirit still alive. Thank you. This friend of mine that I work with, he's a great worker. He's got the calluses on his hands to prove it. He'll get right in there just like me, and we'll dig a hole, use a digging bar, shovel, set post, mix cement, whatever it takes. But he doesn't always have it up here. Well, he'd been living with this gal for quite some time, and she's a pretty good-sized woman. He says, look, you, I've had it. Either you marry me or you get out. So they got hitched. That was 3 years ago. Well, last week was their wedding anniversary, and guess what? He forgot. Again, for the 7th time. And she's a big woman. She says, look, you, that's the last straw. She goes, tomorrow there better be something sitting in that driveway that goes from 0 to 200 in less than 6 seconds. And she's vicious. She gets right up in his face like this, and she says, and it better be there. Well, next morning, gets up, goes to work. Misses, she gets up a couple of hours later, and curiosity's sake, she decides to go over there to that bedroom window and peek out in that driveway. She marches over there and pulls back that curtain, and holy smokes, there it is with a big red ribbon on it. So she's kind of confused at what she sees, so she grabs a robe out of the closet, heads out the bedroom door, the hallway, down through the kitchen, down the front porch, and picks this thing up outside, brings it in and sets it on the kitchen table. She opens it up, and holy smokes, you're not going to believe this. It's a brand new bathroom scale. Yeah, Bob's been missing since Friday. Please pray for him. Thank you. Okay. Folks, I'm going to conclude my set so we can have Chris come up here and set up for our next musical talented group, the Panhandle Cowboys, J.B. Farmer and Farmer Dave Foles. J.B. Barber, right? Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Barber, there we go. Barber and Fluffy. In better places by nicer people. Again, I want to thank Lynn, Jeff, and Thatch for coming up here. Let's hear it for them. Okay, and thank you. Thank you. Yeah, sorry about that little tangle there with Tanglefoot Johnny. I guess that's why they call it Tanglefoot Johnny. Now, we have a pre-show at 6:15. That's going to be hosted tonight with Kristen Harris and Dave Anderson. After the Panhandle Cowboys, we're going to do a lunch break. And then Lynn's going to come back up here and share the stage with himself. Lynn Kapelke from Enumclaw, Washington. And then Prairie Wind, which is Coyote Joe Sarton and Little Joe McCulloch. They're out of Milton Freewater up there by Pendleton there in Oregon. And then last, from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, is going to be Papa Mac. That's Jeff Mackay that you was up here sharing the stage with. And then 7 o'clock this evening, get out of your way here. It's going to be myself, yours truly. I'll be starting the show at 7 o'clock, followed by Bill Childs. Then we're going to have Dave Anderson, Thatch Elmer, and then Kristen Harris.